I'm gonna show you how you can get athletic muscle, and we're gonna start, right? So what the is athletic muscle? And if you can understand immediately, if we think about like this big, huge power lifter, right? They sort of like move around like this, and then we can compare that to an elastic discus thrower, someone like Sam Mattis. You're gonna be able to see there's a little bit of a difference here in their muscle tone and how that muscle is actually operating. So we wanna train our muscle to fire at a high impulse rate and focus on that neurological output. The muscle needs to be lengthened consistently, so training through full range of motions on a regular basis to make sure we got a nice lengthened muscle tone that can end up being recruited as effectively as possible. Ooh. I like to think about it as training the generator first. So how can we improve our neurological output? How can we improve our neural drive? How can we improve our rate of force production? How can we improve our motor unit recruitment? Then we want to focus on areas like dynamic trunk control. This plays a massive factor in the realm of sports performance, but also in general health and general fitness. We want to train the glutes really, really explosively, and we even want to have an impulse focused upper body based training system. Okay, this is what's gonna make that muscle more elastic. And elasticity is key, not only for general health and longevity, but also in the realm of sports performance. It's key to making you more explosive, to being more athletic. That's why there is indeed athletic muscle, think about Sam Mattis, versus maybe non-athletic muscle or muscle built specifically for a task like powerlifting. So when I'm training athletes specifically for that athletic muscle, we're gonna use a 4-day split. And we use 4-day splits exactly like this one deep inside of our app, Peak Strength. You can head over to peakstrength.app, pick that up today for 7 free days of training so you can get a little more athletic. So when we're establishing that athletic-based program, let's say somebody hits me up, they say, Dane, I want to become a world champion in this specific sport. The first thing I do is obviously, hey, let's train 4 days a week at the minimum. And then that first day is going to be leg day, okay? So then I go, all right, leg day. Now, why are we looking at leg day first? Typically, this is where there's gonna be a lot of low-hanging fruit. There's gonna be a lot of means for us to train this individual, to train the person to develop a ton of motor unit recruitment, okay? If we get better motor unit recruitment, we will in turn get better coordination. Better coordination equals higher levels of impulse. And this is great not only for athletes, but also for general fitness. So starting off leg day with a big lift, like a 2-box snatch or a hang power clean or something along those lines, is going to crush that neural drive. It's going to get your nervous system and your brain to fire on all cylinders. So we're gonna start off that leg day with 2-box snatch. Boom! And one of the reasons why I love 2-box snatch is because it forces the athlete to think cerebrally while applying a large amount of force. Recently, what we've done with someone like Eric Favors, who's one of the best shot putters in the entire world, is try to get him to hit 140 kilos, 145 kilos for multiple different sets. So 5 singles, 4 doubles. Okay, and what this does is it creates a large amount of coordination and a large amount of logical thought process while applying a ton of force. This transfers really, really well to the athletic realm. So that next big lift is gonna be a front squat. Obviously, I don't have a ton of weight on, but don't judge me. One of the main reasons why I love front squats, or even if we went heavy back squats, is that it's a great compound movement. You're training that trunk control at a very high intensity. So if you have 180 to 200 kilos, 220 kilos even. Recently, Sam Mattis hit 260 kilos for a triple on a back squat. What that does is it creates a ton of hypertrophic muscle mass through a large range of motion. And then as you train this effectively, more like an athlete, it starts to be more coordinated and apply more force specific to your sport. Now, one of my favorite accessory movements to use is gonna be the reverse hyper. And the way that we load this based off of theoretical knowledge, so based off of research, is that the best way to load this reverse hyper would be with your actual body weight. So for me, 225 pounds. Now, the reason why I also love this is the way it targets my hamstrings, my lower back, my glutes, all of my posterior chain gets coordinated together, and there is a little bit of decompression, okay? So that actually helps alleviate back pain. So a lot of the back stress that you might get from heavy lifting or from that athletic-based training, if there's a possibility, you know, let's say you play football, you're a wrestler or something like that, there can be a lot of back stress. And one way to alleviate a lot of that stress is by hammering out the reverse hyper, I'd say for sets of 12 to 17 reps. I don't have my body weight on. Don't judge me. So that takes us into day 2, International Bench Day, typically done on a Monday. But even when we set up that International Bench Day, we still should be using a big movement to light up our nervous system. A movement that I love to use would be the behind the neck jerk, even with someone like Eric Favors, who's got tremendous levels of athletic muscle. We might have him do jerks up to 230 kilos. Yes, that's over 500 pounds. And then what we've seen practically in our own setting is that we've seen this lead to a better improvement in his overall bench press. So one of the best ways to take some theoretical knowledge, okay, so taking knowledge around the nervous system and understanding what science has shown us, okay, if we lift heavier, if we do things like a heavy double or heavy triple, we know that the nervous system gets heightened. Okay, so if it gets heightened to this level, then we rest for about 1.5 minutes and we do a drop set. We know that when we do that drop set, we can get more volume in with that greater level of heightened awareness from the nervous system. So that leads to better motor unit recruitment. And if we can train that higher level of motor unit recruitment with a lighter load, but with more volume, then those motor units are gonna stay imprinted and we're gonna be able to use them more effectively in our athletic realm. So one way you can take that theoretical knowledge now and use this in your practical setting would be, let's use a bench press, okay? So we're gonna come back. Let's say I have a ton of weight on here. I hit a heavy double. Okay, now what I can do and what we like to do to develop that athletic muscles, we get more hypertrophic, we do all these things, right? Take some weight off. Let's pretend I'm resting 2 minutes, okay? I'll rest 2 to 3 minutes, lighten the load, and I wanna get 2 or 3 sets of drop sets in. And when we get those drop sets in, we wanna focus on that mind-muscle connection and rapid recruitment. So we're here. Now those motor units get imprinted at a higher rate as well. That's gonna help us develop that better athletic muscle over a longer period of time, while also drastically increasing our overall absolute strength. If you're inside of our app, Peak Strength, you're gonna see that we love to superset. So after we hit those big benches, we're gonna do face pulls, okay? And we wanna pull that Powerlastic here, available at GarageStrength.com, to our face. And we wanna try and squeeze that upper back, squeeze our infraspinatus, rhomboid, supraspinatus, even our rear delt here, okay? Traps, squeeze. That's gonna create a little bit better structure in our upper back. It's gonna help us recover before we head back into that bench press. And it's gonna help us with that joint stability throughout our shoulders. And then finishing off that International Bench Day, or day 2 as we refer to it, is we wanna make sure that we're doing a lot of dumbbell work. So we can do some hypertrophy-based work. We can make sure that the rep schemes are unbroken so that you're moving things fast. You're focusing on that mind-muscle connection. And then I always like to finish that workout with more special strength, okay? So we're gonna take something specific to the athlete. If we have a discus thrower, we're gonna use discus-specific movements. If we have a football player, we're gonna use drills for that football player in their actual position. So we've gotta make sure that we stimulate this growth, but we still finish with something that puts them in the mindset to be athletic. So we always like to do a lot of dumbbell work. So this might be using more hypertrophic based training methods. Let's say we do 5 sets of 9 on a military press. But when we do that, we're actually doing it unbroken. We're focusing on that mind-muscle connection. Then we might hit that with some type of row or another type of pull, let's say a neutral grip pull-up, to really stabilize that shoulder girdle and to lengthen the lat. So this takes us to day 3, athlete day. This is the day you're gonna be twitchy. So when we think about being more athletic and developing that athletic muscle, I like to look at it through how explosive can we be? If we get someone to 270, 280, they get super, super hypertrophic, I still want them to have a 35 plus vertical jump, like Sam Mattis, someone who is extremely explosive. So we need to do things from a theoretical sense that are gonna actually improve their power output or their impulse production. And that's gonna be doing things like plyometrics. And we can start that elastic work with just doing PVC pipe walks, making sure the nervous system starts to get heightened, making sure that we're training the athlete on an unstable ground to really get their nervous system to wake up and be ready to fire as rapidly as possible. So a great way to take that high power output that you learn how to create, you learn how to use, you learn how to generate from technical coordination movements. So think about 2-box snatches, power cleans, okay? Then we develop that greater leg strength from front squats, back squats. Now we can learn how to coordinate even faster at higher speeds here with a depth drop to a bounce. So when we train for athletic muscle, we want to train through all those joint ranges, but we also want to train through all those different speeds of recruitment. So this would be a great example here. Bound, okay? You can measure it, you can make it a little bit more competitive, so we can do sets of 2 jumps and just constantly try and improve, constantly try and build this distance so that you learn how to be reactive. Boom! Now, another thing that we like to do is focus on unilateral jumps, unilateral positions. So if we have sport-specific things that we want to work on, here's a great example. We want to learn how to be more agile, and we want to learn how to train that dynamic trunk control. We can start one leg here, drive, come back, boom, come back, boom. And then over time, as this pulls me back, I want to react even quicker. Here, go, boom, boom. And that creates more tension here. And then as I come back, I have to decelerate and react quickly. So use these examples to become a better athlete, to coordinate at higher speeds through all different ranges of motion and movement patterns. And then in 3A, I love doing reflexive work. This could be a side Sanders jump to a hip lock with a hydro weight. We could then go into some more plyometric work, single leg stair jumps, anything like that. Trying to be as explosive as possible. And then finishing off 4A with visualization of the specific sport. So getting a drill specifically for that sport and getting the athlete to think through it. Visualize the technique that they're gonna use. Feel that mind-muscle connection while they're actually doing that. That's going to help them be more coordinated. So we can also, while they're visualizing, they could do 20 to 30 seconds of visualization, 20 to 30 seconds of actual physical drills. That's gonna have a great carryover to take that recruitment that we've created in this twitchy athlete day and actually have that transfer to the athletic realm. Okay, so this takes us into day 4, impulse day. Now, one of the big things we've got to remember is, what is impulse? Impulse is force in a designated period of time. Okay, so when we're talking about athletic muscle, ideally we would recruit as quickly as possible in various different joint positions at very, very high speeds, as I stated, okay? So this is one of the few full body workouts that actually does work. And remember, we start off with that heavy leg day so we can develop a lot of strength and technical coordination movements. I'm thinking right now, Eric Favors, Sam Mattis, Jaime Perez, some of the best athletes in the world. What we wanna focus on is moving things fast and then also hitting them with some big absolute strength numbers. So pushing their back squat, pushing their front squat. You know, then we worked into day 2. We talked about hitting big, heavy jerks, being very, very snappy, very twitchy, very elastic, okay? And then taking that into doing some things like the bench press and even doing the bench press heavy. That's okay, because later on we'll do more fast work, okay? Then we got into that athlete day. So we built a lot of muscle. We're building and creating more muscle mass. And then athlete days helping that muscle recruit and innervate at a higher pace, okay? And that's where impulse day is gonna back end everything now. We're even using this as another means to be more dynamic. Now, we're getting into that technical coordination on 1A. That's where we want to focus on something like rapid cleans, being as aggressive and as fast as possible. Okay, so now we're gonna go 2A and 2B. Impulse day, we want to focus on good trunk stability and rapid reaction. We're going to use our single leg pad, our garage strength single leg pad and single leg roller, available at garagestrength.com. If you need something to help you improve that posterior chain, be more athletic, you should pick that up today, okay? Now, when you get into this position here, I want to be unbroken, boom, 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 okay? 3 each leg, 1, 2, 3, that feels so good, okay? So I'm focusing on that trunk stability, I'm focusing on that unilateral position. That's gonna transfer tremendously to athletic muscular development. I'm gonna superset that with pull-ups, okay? Pull-ups are a great way to improve your overall joint stability in your shoulders, lengthen your lats, get a little bit more hypertrophic. I'm hiding behind the post from a cameraman. So I'm gonna jump up, I'm gonna do neutral grip pull-ups, okay? These are probably my favorite pull-ups because it's a little bit less stressful, just a little bit less stressful on the shoulders, and it also does increase bicep size. So here, ooh, 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 ooh. Okay, so we'll go back and forth about 4 to 5 sets. Remember, this is impulse day, so we want to be aggressive. We want to move it as quickly as we can with as much control as possible. Now, 3A is going to be unbroken dumbbell work. We get a lot of questions about this. Well, Dane, what's the theoretical side behind this? Theoretically, when we do unbroken stuff, okay, especially with dumbbells, we have to be more stable. We have to have greater co-contractions in our shoulder if we're doing presses, in our knee if we're doing single leg stuff. If we do it unbroken, then there's also more intent. The intent is to move weight fast and controlled, okay? That's where we see this athletic muscle really start to develop. I believe that's one of the big differences between having someone who is hypertrophic and reactive versus someone who is hypertrophic and can barely walk. Okay, so I'll demonstrate right here, and we can do something like this, okay? Boom, 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 bah. And if you're in something like combat sport, you could even go like this. Boom, 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 boom. And you can get creative. You could do a dumbbell military press. You could do a dumbbell bench, anything like that. Train it fast, train it controlled, and learn how to develop that athletic muscle. Yes, athletic muscle. Somebody's triggered right now from athletic muscle conversation. And then that takes us into that dynamic trunk control. So that's gonna be trunk work, okay? So we wanna focus on something like past the plate, or even doing a hanging leg raise, or anything along those lines. Even to a point, if we're training wrestlers, dynamic trunk control work could be climbing a rope while we're actually holding a dumbbell in our feet. And then finishing off that impulse day with reflexive work. So again, using the hydro weight, getting to hip lock positions, moving through various different drills at high speeds, or doing special strength work. So finding a specific weakness in somebody's game, okay? If they're a field hockey player and their trunk rotation is very, very weak, we might do specific exercises with a Powerlastic to then train that specific strength. So that's where we were gonna play around with this on that impulse day. So it's important to train athleticism, strength, hypertrophy. All these things are great, especially if you want to improve your overall health. Think about this. So one of the main reasons why I think we should always train as an athlete is that we want to be limber. Okay, we wanna have good mobility. We wanna have good joint structure. That goes along with improving lean muscle mass. If we have more lean muscle mass, we're going to be healthier for a longer period of time. And we need to focus on neural drive, okay? If we're training athletes specifically, what I like to focus on is what specific neural drive are we trying to train? Okay, do we need more absolute strength? Do we need less absolute strength? Do we need more reflexive work? Do we need more plyometric work? These are all thoughts that go through my head as we're developing these world-class athletes. And if you need a personalized program to help you train as an athlete, make sure you head over to peakstrength.app, where you can get 7 free days of our brand new app. We've got over 35 different sports programmed specifically. Well, you'll go in, you'll add your goals, you'll add your overall PRs, and you'll even set that peak date, and then we'll give you a program based off of all of your specific needs that'll help you lead to this monster peak so that you can achieve that peak strength. And if you want to learn more about the science behind how we train here at Garage Strength and the science behind sports performance in general, make sure you check out our podcast, the Masters of Sport podcast. What we do is we dive deep into the weeds of all the science, so we have this theoretical edge on this side, and then we backdoor everything with that practical edge so that you can understand how we can take research, how we can take science, and then apply it in a real life setting. And you can find that on YouTube and all of the podcast platforms. Because remember, freaks, if you guys want to become a champion, you've always got to cultivate your power. Peace.